Hello, world. How are you this evening? This evening I'm coming to you live from self-isolation. Unfortunately, one of my householders contracted the COVID. And so for the past 4 days, I've been in here, which sucks, but it's allowed me to work quite extensively. He's okay, by the way. He's been ill for maybe 4 days, flu symptoms, nothing worse than that, hopefully. So it sucks far more for him than it does for me. I'm fine, but yeah. So we've been self-isolating, and we're getting by. We're okay. But yeah, it's allowed me to work. Fortunately, going a little bit stir crazy, but never mind. Unfortunately, it's allowed me to be able to do this stream today. And I thought, what better sculpt to do when in isolation than something to do with Alien. Alien Isolation, definitely one of the best games, PS4. And it's something, it's pretty straightforward what we're going to be doing. But it means we can get to I can use techniques and methods from all over the place and demonstrate a lot of different techniques in a kind of more straightforward format, from beginning to end as well. So this means you'll see everything that I do from starting a document to making a polymesh 3D, even that far, and then we'll go through sculpting methods. We'll go through using references. We'll Dynamesh. We'll do all that stuff, all the way through to prepping it for 3D print, exporting as STLs, all that kind of stuff. So by the end of this sculpt will be ready for your slicer software. And then during the week coming up, I will do a pre-recorded video where I will slice it, and I'll put it through the 3D printer, and then I will demonstrate how easy it can be using the slicer softwares. They are, depending on your model, this one should be very straightforward. So yeah, I think let's jump right into it. Okay, so here we are in Zbrush. All I've done to this document, aside from changing my UI, I have went up into document and then new document. So your actual document window might be cropped when you open Zbrush. And so to get it to fit the window exactly like this, just go over to document, new document, and make sure you've got auto fit window size enabled, and then it should make it look like this. The next thing I will usually do, because I'm not really a massive fan of this black to grey gradient background. I'll set my colour. So colour, set it maybe about midway down, and just have a bit less harsher black. Go up to your document, and where it says back, that's actually a colour there that it's demonstrating. Just change that to, and that's personal preference. I just think it's less garish to do that. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to make a sphere and then make it Polymesh 3D and draw it out onto my canvas and hit T to go into edit mode, and then we are in edit mode. I'm going to change the default material to matte cap grey. Again, personal preference, my favorite material to sculpt onto. Now I do have reference open in my other window, but unfortunately I don't know how to get PureRef to show itself on my streaming software, unfortunately. And so if I can just bring up Photoshop, I've copied it into Photoshop, so let me give me one moment. Window capture, and interesting. Okay, so hopefully you are seeing what I am seeing there. So here is the reference material that I have got for this particular sculpt. It's not something that hasn't been done a million times before, you know, but hopefully we can put our own little spin on it. And I think we can kind of move away slightly from the traditional alien movie egg from on the left, the classic iconic egg, and bring it more in line with H.R. Geiger's work I've put on the right, with the kind of contrasting mechanical line work and surface detail with the kind of more organic forms. I think that's really nice, and as well because this is going to be a Wacom pen holder. I should have reiterated that. I've put at the top there whether the base could have a multiple purpose, because we can have the egg itself as an inkwell, and then the base can be also have a resting function, so that the pen can rest on that as well, and the egg can be removed and used for ornamental purposes. So basically I'm just going to start by moving this around, bring my reference back up, and then bear with me one moment. There we go. Just get my reference up on the other monitor, and then we're just going to start by moving this into the shape we want, smoothing it out. And if we make the smooth brush really large, you'll see that it basically smooths over the whole thing in a uniform way. I have my brushes hotkeyed to the numbers 1 through 9. So we've got 1 is my clay brush, 2 the move brush, 3 the damp standard, 4 the standard, 5 inflate, 6 pinch, 7 H polish, 8 trim dynamic, and then I've got the IMM brushes, the primitives, set to number 9, and then the snake hook brush to 0. That just allows me to jump between the brushes really quickly. Okay, so well, what I can also do, because this is such a uniform shape, and Geiger's work tends to have quite a lot of repetition in the patterns. If we go up to transform, and down here where it says activate symmetry, if we hit radial symmetry, the little R in brackets, you can see how that's changed our X symmetry into radial. So if I change that to radial Y, you can see now that it's starting to create 8 symmetrical influences on the y-axis. You can see just by doing anything in radial symmetry, you're gonna get some really cool results. And it's kind of akin to, if we really upped that, say 32, and then we got our, I mean this is slightly off center now because I've manipulated it, but see if we can move it back to more of the center. And then we got our standard brush, say. It's akin to the pottery wheel, and how you turn pottery. Really reminds me of that. And you can kind of come in here and bury it in and whatnot. And so for this, let me go back to when it was in the center a bit more. With this we can use the, maybe not on that, maybe not on 32, but if we went to 8, maybe even less. Let me just mirror and weld on the X and the Z. Smooth it down a little bit. And because there's so many influences now, because we're on radial symmetry, let's bring it down to 8. You can see how the effect is going to essentially be multiplied as soon as you start going over another radius. So you really want to bring that Z intensity down for your brushes when you're working in radial symmetry. And so I think I'm going to go more off the Geiger work here than the previous examples. I don't want to be too much like anybody else's work. And we're going to bring in the Wacom, an example of a Wacom Pen scale 3D model when we've got the look and feel of the actual egg where we want it. So, and I want this to look pretty disgusting to look at. I don't want this to look beautiful in any way. I don't want it to look like a Fabergé egg or anything like that. This is going to look disgusting, so we're going for pustules and growths and dripping. It's going to look moist, basically what we're going for here. And I've lost the chat. We're still good. Okay. So just using the radial symmetry to give us a little bit of inspiration at this point. Really have no specific direction to go in. I'm gonna dig into the top here a little bit more, and then bring the bottom down. So I don't want these to come out too much. And we can be really very loose at this point with where we want to take it. I think generally they're a little bit more bulbous. And it's at this point I'm going to whack on Dynamesh 32 resolution. Dynamesh is in your geometry tab under the subtool, under the tool palette, and then hit Dynamesh and your resolution is here. It's best to go with a lower resolution at first. You should be okay in this case because it's we've gone from the primitive sphere, the Polymesh 3D sphere, sorry. So its scale is usually standard, but the resolution of the Dynamesh works from the scale of your model. So if you scaled it up, it might have a different effect to what this one has. So just smoothing out a little bit. I'm going to make this hole a little wider. You can see how cool of a twisting effect you can get with this radial symmetry. It's really quite an organic technique to use. And usually when it comes to the flaps at the top, this is where I will go off the Canon, the Alien Universe Canon. There's usually only 4, which is why I set the radial to 8, because if we now drop this down to 4, we will get because it's half of what we were doing earlier, it will just fit better into it, because you know that for every damn standard crease that we've made here in the center of our new flap kind of thing, then you know that the next one is going to be in the center of the next one, and so on. It will create a nice uniformity to the sculpt, whereas if we now did 12 or 9 or a random number, then we might get a little bit of a it might still look cool, but it might not be as uniform or as natural looking as we might want. So I'll just kind of go in and use these shapes that the radial symmetry is kind of made for us in a way. I'll utilize those and kind of see where I want to take the overall shape of the egg, and to see kind of what details I'd want to put in. I'd maybe not even go too crazy with these creases for now, because just popping into my clay brush and then jumping over to my trim dynamic. I love using the trim dynamic brush at this early stage in conjunction with the clay brush. I feel like the trim dynamic brush smooths down the form of the of what you've built up with the clay brush really nicely, and gives quite a it's almost stylistic straight off the bat. It gives you more kind of defined edges and planes to work with, and this will all be sculpted out eventually because we do want to go for a photorealistic look. I mean, you might not want to, you might want to keep it stylistic, and that's not to say that we're not going to. But how I've got this in my head at the moment is that it's going to be kind of if it's painted and then with a gloss finish, it might look like there's an actual alien egg holding your Wacom pen, which would be great. So this is looking like pretty much the kind of silhouette and scale that I'm after. There's a hell of a lot of detail to be done. I might put some seams, and then we'll come in and work it out of symmetry eventually, because it's not going to be completely uniform all the way around. We might even, some of these have almost little separate pods on them that have a different material to them, like so if we come in here and if I show you the concept again, so these guys to the left, this artistic rendering of that I found on ArtStation by Sebastian Szyziak, I hope I'm saying that right, has these pretty disgusting looking growths on the side of it, which I just love. I think they're really disgusting. Same with the rendering at the bottom there. You can just about see those little sacs, and it's been years and years since I've seen Alien, so I'm assuming that might be kind of new Alien, like Prometheus and whatnot style, but yeah, to incorporate a couple of those might be quite nice. But again, I do want to steer clear of recreating the things that I'm seeing. I mean, use your reference to a point, and references are amazing and essential even, but definitely be careful about going too close to your references when doing something like this. You know, if your intention is to create an exact replica of a prop from a film, then use your reference religiously. Look at your reference more than you look at your actual work. The importance of reference cannot go, you cannot overstate it, especially when it comes to anatomical things that have to be correct. But with this, we're just having fun with a little bit of, we're free forming it, and hopefully I won't get any of the die-hard Alien fans telling me off. So with these flaps, we're going to want it to be open as if it's either eating the pen, or it's just spat it out either way. And so if I could come in here and use my move brush and bend them down and make them all flappy, you know. That's, yeah, perfectly legitimate way to do it. I mean, I love this undo brush slide bar. It's great. Make little animations out of that, you know. However, I'm going to just demonstrate how you can use the gizmo and probably do it a little bit quicker. So your gizmo tool will obey the rules of the radial symmetry. If I mask out the area, then it will mask all the other areas in the radial symmetry. I'll revert my mask. I'll go to my gizmo tool by hitting W, and then holding Alt, I'll drag up the on the surface of one of the flaps, and then it will conform the gizmo to where I've dragged from the start and end point, and then the Z axis will point in the from the normal that we want to move from, or in this case rotate from. And then with a little bit of luck, if I hold Alt and move the gizmo in, then we can rotate the flaps on the axis that we want. However, the mask is a little bit too sharp, so I'm going to hold Alt and soften the mask off, and then we'll get a much nicer and much quicker, it involves a lot less sculpting steps, a much nicer kind of open pod then. And then if we dynamesh that, we can start sculpting on it again. And then as well, we can kind of start seeing these kind of stretch marks. Now I want to really highlight those, and this is what I mean, like when you're working at this really early stage, keep an eye out for things that happen that are out of your control, happy accidents basically, because it can really make the process more fun for one, but also more dynamic. You know, some things like the stretch marks of these as we turn them out happen naturally, and so it's kind of like that would happen as those things are opening, and so you're going to want to keep details like that. So I'm going to flap them out even more here, have them kind of hanging so that you know that this thing's going to come up to a point. That's nice. I'm going to start thinking about how I want the base now. I've gotten rid of my reference. Where is it? There we go. My apologies that I can't show you the reference while I'm sculpting. I will figure out how to do that for future streams, but for now you're gonna have to go off my audio description of the reference. Okay, now let's take it in from above. See, I'm going, because of these little growths on the side, we're starting to get a little bit square. And I want it to look fat, like it's got something in it, like there's a face hugger inside this thing. So the inflate brush will definitely help us with that. Maybe come in and elongate it from that shape. Okay, we're looking nice. maybe no, yeah, I like that. I like how I was questioning whether they should be as open as they are, the flaps, but I like how open they are. It's as if it's just exploded open. And I'm debating whether eventually to put an actual face hugger on this thing. Just going to twist it around a little bit more. Kind of gives it a little bit more of a organic look. Okie dokie. Now, so if we focus on the base, I'll start with, again, I'll just insert a sphere. You can get to almost any point from a sphere. And I will just pop that underneath where we might want it. And eventually we're going to have some details, maybe joining onto it or inserting into it or crawling up it, potentially, depending on how we want the thing to sit and remove itself. Maybe we'll go that big. Debating whether to have the base bigger or whether to have, and I guess at this point I'll bring in the pen just so we can get a sense of scale. So if I insert a polymesh 3D, we can import our pen onto it. Whenever you import something into ZBrush, it's going to import over the selected subtool that you're on. So be careful you're not importing over something that you want to keep. Always bring in a polymesh star, and then you run your import. So I'll just navigate to find that. Alien egg pen holder. No, it's not. It's in my assets. Assets 3D. And where are we? Wacom Pen. There we go. Oh, look at that. Went straight in the top of that thing. It's meant to be. Okay, so if I isolate that, I got this really cool model from Turbo Squid. I think it was $10 or something. I mean, I probably could have got. There's a hell of a lot of free stuff on Turbo Squid as well. I thought I would pay for one because it looked a lot more trustworthy than the others. Now, if I was doing this on a commission or doing it for anybody other than myself, and I didn't have the opportunity to correct any mistakes after I printed it fairly easily, then I would definitely get a 3D scan of a pen or do my own measurements to make sure that dimensions are exactly right. However, for this, I don't mind. I'm going to eyeball it and I'm going to trust my eyes. If it comes down to it after I've printed it, you know, it's probably a 5-hour print. I can live with it being slightly too small. Too small, I can sand it. Too big, I will reprint it. However, we do want to get it right if we can first time. So I'm just going to separate off the pen from the actual holder. Now the holder, as you can see, let's see if we can flip it, we can get a better idea of what's going on. So the pen itself, the holder is basically the negative space of the pen. So it sits inside and hopefully has a little gap so that the nib of the pen doesn't come in contact with anything. It's suspended in midair, so that it doesn't, so that it's nice and safe from any kind of further damage once you put it in the inkwell. So we want to definitely retain that, and I'm thinking, seeing how lovely and neatly that's sat itself inside, I'm just going to move that down and see about using the actual model that we got from Turbo Squid to help us out a little bit here. So I will carve in with the clay brush our egg model until we can see the bottom of the Turbo Squid sculpt model. And we obviously don't want the to ruin the illusion of this lovely egg we're sculpting by having too much of this on show, but we do want the pen to fit in. So if we were to just have a little look with the gizmo to see how that fits in there, that will probably rest around about there. And we can see that we can take the egg in a little bit more, fatten up these edges slightly. There we are, getting lovely stretching happening. So then if we take the pen away, then we know that you'd have to get pretty vertical. You have to intentionally look down in order to see the see the pen holder itself in there. Now, I mean, these are initial kind of blockouts. So I mean, all the measurements can change, all except the measurements of these. This has been designed especially and measured out especially so that we so that this can be printed and used as a Wacom pen holder, presumably, or for animation advertisements or whatever. And so everything around it can change, but as long as we don't fiddle with it or sculpt on it, then we're all good. So I'm just going to start adding in further details here. I don't want to get too symmetrical actually, so maybe I'll come down to just regular symmetry now. So if I hit X and deactivate radial, you know what, let's go off symmetry altogether, because I've activated radial and created a radial sculpt. Then it's no longer symmetrical from just one axis. So we're going to have to go off-road, so to speak. But again, we're just maybe adding in some vague eyeball detail for now, and the less symmetrical it is, the more organic it's going to look. You'll have these big tertiary forms, but you'll have these big these larger forms in place, and they will be symmetrical, but then inside those details will be repetition, yes, but everything needs to be slightly off, and I think a little bit more so than just coming in at the end and using the move brush or something, throwing it out of symmetry slightly, or you know, what have you. I think the more you can sculpt out of symmetry, the better, really. Not necessarily the most practical. You know, if you're doing a character sculpt, for instance, for production, you're not going to work in asymmetry from the very beginning. It's just not, it's not practical to do so. However, for something like this, the more you can work out of symmetry, the better, really. And the more the end result is going to look more natural, look like it's looks like it's grown out of something, you know. It is the thing that is growing the thing, but it must have grown out of something itself at some point. And okay, I think we're getting to a point here with the egg that I think we can well, like that. I like pushing in there and what it does to this crease here. I'm going to do that all the way around. Make sure you remember to do it all the way around if you're working in asymmetry. And maybe we can do little stretch marks on these growths, hinting at them for now, but we'll elaborate on them once we start to get more and more details. As we start to get the details properly in. Then we can really make it gross. And I'm really going quick here, you know. It's not you know how easily this is to smooth out, you know. We're at 14,000 points in this thing. You can see how light it is, and how non-detailed it is, and at this point, you know, mistakes, if they even exist at this point, are very easily undone or corrected. I mean, I'm not even using the undo, the Control Z at this point. I'll very rarely actually undo anything, because whatever goes in can definitely be just some kind of mishap with the actual egg itself, in the lore of the universe that we've put this in. Okay, so our radial has gone to X again. We'll put it to Y, and then we can start bringing the base a little bit more in line, perhaps. And then this will kind of, the base I see more as a Geiger-esque thing, so more kind of mechanical edges and maybe some tubes. I'll show you some techniques to do some crazy tubing in a moment. And in fact, what we can do here, instead of making that, be careful with the radial symmetry that you don't just start making a Mr. Whippy looking thing, you know. I mean, if you're going for an iced gem, then it's definitely the way to go, but we don't want this to look delicious in any way, shape or form. Oh yeah, I like that. I like how it looks like this. So we might have an organic kind of base to this, and then maybe some Geiger style tubes coming in and out, and and so it can be a little bit like it's been squished or stuck to the to whatever it's on. Just thinking how large this is going to be in real life. So say, let's duplicate the pen. We lay that down there. So it's going to be fairly sizable. I mean, if you look just how small an actual Wacom pen is, Wacom pen holder, sorry. It's probably, you could probably you know, it's probably a third of the size of our Sculpt, if not, yeah. So our Sculpt is more than 3 times. It's about 3.5 times the size of a Wacom pen holder, which is probably too large to have that. I mean, you're hardly going to notice that your pen is even there. So it might be worth us bringing that down a little bit, so it doesn't look quite as massive on your desk. So if I go into my gizmo, if we want to scale down the whole thing at once, I mean, I could just scale up the pen and the holder, but I'm going to leave them as is. If we click the transpose all selected subtools, and then we go with our gizmo selected, select our select rectangle tool, and then the lasso, and then we can select what subtools we want to be able to move, and we can scale and rotate those selected subtools as well. If we selected the pen, the holder, that'll all go with it as well. So that's how you do that. But we're just using this to scale down. It doesn't have to be by much. You can see how the pen holder itself is going to start to creep in. But we can always make it a little bit. So, I mean, I think this is what we're talking more like, really. You can see how that now is probably, we're talking, you know, twice the size ish, a little bit bigger, ish. So what we can do now, turn transparent off. Let's get our radial symmetry back on and make it more bulbous. If I just get a larger move brush, see, it won't have to come too far out. And remember that it's not that outside shell that we necessarily have to concern ourselves with. It's the housing of the pen itself. So we probably didn't even need to make it more bulbous at this part. As it happens, I kind of like how bulbous it is, but it's this inside part that we're concerned with. As long as it fits the pen, we're all good. So I'm just gonna dig a little bit inside, and there we go. We have our pen holder, and you see that it's coming out a little bit there at the sides, but like I said, that's absolutely fine. I can move back to the base now, bring the pen back. Now the tubing technique that I was going to show you, let's move down these little bits, is if we create ourselves a plain 3D. This is a Make It Polymesh 3D, of course. Spin it around so we can see it. Now we can sculpt on it. We're gonna Control D, subdivide that so it's nice and smooth. There we go. And then let's get a lovely Geiger-esque. Let me zoom in on this. Right, how do we? Okay, this one's a little pixelated, but hopefully, hopefully you'll still get the idea. Let me open up. Oh, it hasn't zoomed in. So you see that the close-up of the woman's head on the Geiger side of the references, second one down. There's a lot of, in a kind of headdress kind of shape, there's a lot of repeated, almost spine vertebrae looking things. So this is what I'm going to try and replicate here. So, and you'll find out why I'm doing it on a plane momentarily. So I'm going to get my mask brush. Just going to do a little mask. Now with look, this works. I haven't done this in a while. Let's lazy mouse that, so now I'm getting nice straight edge. Well, not a straight edge, just a less crazy edge. So then if we then move that out, scale it in a bit. Oh. Let's lower the subdivs and smooth that out a bit. Basically what we're about to do is create a an IMM brush and drag it over the surface of the model. So we don't want to go anywhere near the edges. This will give us a nice repeated Geiger-esque pattern, hopefully. Oh, hey, I kind of like that. Because I smoothed that down on the lower subdivision level, this detail wasn't there. Excuse me. And so when I brought it back up to the subdivision level 6, it's brought back that detail for us, which usually I would smooth that out, but it seems like here it's worked in our favor. This is exactly the type of shape that we want to keep. So maybe we won't have that many of these guys. Kind of now get a little bit more detailed up the subdivs. And we're not really doing anything in particular here, we're just making a kind of vague organicness. See what we can do here. Create little ridges. All right, we'll see what we get with that. Okay, so we want to be face onto it. All right, let's see how we do this. Can we create an insert mesh from that? Let's see. So we'll go onto our brushes. I clicked B then to go onto our brushes. Now I'm going to create an insert mesh, which might be the right thing. We might need an alpha, but I'm going to try out both. So if we just click new, that's going to pop our design up into the top here, and we've actually created a brush now from it. So if I was to go to our base and click this out, and you can see we're dragging out that shape that we've just made onto the canvas, but you can see how you see we're dealing with a lot of polygons there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that down 66,000, and then I'm going to delete all the other subdivision levels. Beg your pardon. We'll go down to 66,000, delete the lower and delete the higher. So then we have no subdivision levels, and we've got a relatively low poly count. You know, we're not going to be repeating this and repeating this and repeating this. And so it shouldn't get too high. So it's still using the previous one. Apologies if you can hear scratching. My cat is trying to get in, but she will I might let her in a second. So we need to create a new insert mesh, and what I might do is create an alpha. We'll convert all subtools of the selected tools as individual 3D meshes that can be selected within IMN selector. Yes, that might be what we need to do. But I'm going to create a new one of these. Okay. I'm going to try this out first. See what we can get with it. This is all just playing around. See how much quicker that is. And so let's try it without radial symmetry and without that. So here we go. So we can drag it out, but you can see how it's still registering it as a plane. So that's no good to us. Let's see what happens when we go onto our stroke. Okay, I feel too bad. My cat has to come in. Yes. Go on, I'm streaming. Sorry about that. Okay, so if we go down to our mesh, is that the right one? Yeah. If we open stroke, do you want to say hi? Come on, say hi, Kiki. Hello, you're on the internet. You can't get up though. Okay, so if we go into our stroke menu with the polymesh with the IMM brush that we've just made selected, and we go into curve and we select curve mode, then with a little bit of luck we can get something. You know what I'm going to do, let me have a think. Yes, what's going to be better here in this circumstance? I mean, I could create an alpha. Let me just see how creating an alpha works, and let's see if we can make 3D mesh. I forget how to make an alpha. It's been that long since I've done it. Where's the chat? Is there anyone on yet? There is not. No one can help me. There's nobody out there. Alright, so what I'm going to do, abandon that. What I'm going to do is we're going to create an actual tube, which is probably better as well, to be honest. If we sculpt on, maybe a little bit shorter, if we sculpt on an actual grotesque tube, and we come in here and we Geiger this up a little bit, but yeah, if anyone can go away, Kiki. If anybody can remind me in the chat, I'm going to go and look it up after this, how to create an alpha from a mesh and drag it out. That would be very helpful. So we're going to create kind of a Geiger looking tube thing here. We're just going to kind of make it look like a messed up spinal cord, really. Maybe a little. And we're not going to worry too much about the back of this thing. Just focus on the front, because half of it is going to be penetrating inside the base anyway, so you won't see it. Oh. Activate symmetry again. Right, so let's use that, see what that looks like. Because once we've added it to the base, I don't want to get too distracted with this. Once we add that to the base, then we can add more details as we like. So what we're working on there, 31,000, delete the lower, create insert mesh, new. Then we'll go to our base, pop radial symmetry on. Let me Dynamesh this. We're even in Dynamesh mode? No, we're not. So I'll activate Dynamesh mode. I'll just do some radial detail. Mr. Whippy Ice Gem it again. Put more maybe veiny and weird. We'll then go press B, hit our newly created insert multi-mesh, go on to curve mode, and then we can start dragging them out. Now you can see there how important the poly count is for these, because say each one of these is what, 31,000. If you're dragging them out over a curve, and it's for every section of that curve, it's duplicating a new one. It's every time it's 31,000, and then you're putting it through radial symmetry as well. We bumped up from 20,000 to 3.3 million pretty quickly. And at this point, I'm reminded that Zbrush loves to crash, so I'll give it a save because we are live. Okie dokie. So if we go a little bit larger with these tubes, probably not that large actually, they also need to be closer in, so you can see how, oops, you can see how there's a gap in between each one. You might want that, but also you might want to lower the curve step. So if I point that to 0.5, you can see how it's now no longer drawing them out. Wonder why. Interesting. Seems to have lost its alpha-iness, its IMM-ness. Strange. So I'm just going to create that again. Hopefully that'll fix the problem. I'm not sure what's happened there. Create insert, new. There it is again. Yeah, can draw them out. Can we curve them out? Yes, we can. Okay, so now you can see it's bunching them up. Probably a little bit too much. But this is a great technique to you can create stuff like you can create a spinal cord pretty quickly with that. Just sculpt out one vertebrae and then drag it over a curve, or stuff like this, tubing, any kind of repeated pattern along a line can be done with this. Obviously this is a quick and dirty example. You can also then, if I bring back the actual egg, under the stroke, here I'll just dock this over to the left. Is my face in the way of it? Slightly. Hopefully if I just dock the stroke menu, you'll still be able to see it. Yep. So if I, here you've got your curve functions, you can lock the start of it. So so that if I then start to drag these around, very laggy because they're super heavy, but you can see how the start point isn't moving, and yet we can use this curve to then further manipulate our tubes, create whatever pattern we want. We can also, I'll just use one of them for now so I can better demonstrate that, and you can see how quick and responsive it usually is when it's only dealing with a few thousand, and you can really manipulate this very intuitively and very easily, and then once you're done with the editing of the tube, you just click on the subtool that you've drawn it on, in this case the base, and then it will get rid of that line and mask the curve that you've just drawn out. It'll mask the new shape, and then you can come down to your split unmask points and make it into its own separate subtool. However, what we are doing is I'm showing you how we can, if we go into our curve mode, bend, if we snap it, you can see there it's going to snap to the underlying surface. And so We don't want curve mode on a move brush. Let's go back to our IMM brush. If we snap it, then it's gonna do its best to conform to the shape of our egg, and you'll see we won't actually be able to drag it in. Yes, we will. However, it will do its best as we're drawing it. I'm not entirely sure why it's going inside there, but you can see as we draw it, it's going to conform to the shape quite nicely. And so, with that in mind, let's get this tube done. So I'm going to run them kind of inside, up inside the egg a little bit. And if I want it slightly bigger, all I need to do is up the scale of my brush and then click, and it will. Yeah, I definitely need to lower or up the spacing in between them slightly. See, there we go again. Strange. I'm not sure why it keeps losing it there, but let's see if we can change it back. No, let's create it again real quick. We'll do it right this time. Green set mesh, new curve mode. We'll go maybe 1.69. Yeah, that's nice. So I'm gonna maybe conform to the little divot that I've made here. Make it so that they kind of run in, click off. Then I can lower it inside. And now, instead of running this on radial symmetry, which will be quite laggy and memory heavy, what I'm going to do is split on mass points, and then I'm just going to duplicate it, and that way we're going to get, that way we're going to not have to face that lag, and we can also keep that symmetry whilst also eyeballing it. I think it's quite important to eyeball a lot of things when you're talking about organic shapes. So I mean, that's quite nice. It's probably not as Geiger-esque as I was planning. Looks a little bit like a foil tube that you get on cheap sci-fi movies, but that's fine too. What we can now do though is we can come in here. Now we don't necessarily need this divot. We can come in here and start sculpting around it on our original base. Maybe get our standard brush and make kind of a risen portion there, where we can start making little creases like it's growing out of something organic. A couple of maybe veins or capillaries or whatever. Just going to change the alpha of the clay brush to the square alpha, and it gives you can see it gives a lot more of a sharper edge to it. So if we click off that, we can see how that's working. Come back to the base, And then we can Dynamesh that at higher resolution now. Even higher than 48 really. Let's go to 90. And now we can really start to work out these, working on too high a radial symmetry. In fact, let's go no symmetry at all. Okay. Because whereas we have upped our Dynamesh resolution, we are still essentially at the blockout stages. And you can, we're getting more and more detailed, but you can still move pretty quick through these stages. Create little veins that come down it. And these are the kind of these are the kind of details that you're going to want to be asymmetrical. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to go into asymmetry for these. I'm going to go into symmetry rather. 4 times radial for our little flaps, because what we can do here is rough them up after the fact. I don't want it to start looking too uniform, however, so I'll kind of come in and out of symmetry. I'll use radial for a bit and then I'll come back and I'll differentiate some of those patterns and stretches, making sure to keep it fresh so that it's not becoming repetitive. It keeps looking organic. Just checking my reference here. We can begin to add what has a kind of seam over the on the outside, on the lip of these flaps. Probably need slightly more detail for this properly, but if we block it in now, it's a nice detail. Like it's still of kind of like the flora family, even though it has veins. I suppose leaves have veins, but it's still it's as much creature as it is, it's as much plant as it is creature or egg or anything like that. What we can do here, start to add, if I up my brush intensity, I can start to add maybe little bulbous clusters of like pustules and overgrown bits. I don't know what you would call them. Just grossness, where it's really ready to burst. And we can really just have fun with this part. I know I said the importance of reference earlier, but I'm just putting these anywhere at the moment. You know, I don't think there's really any rhyme or reason to where a pustule would go. I don't even know if pustule is the right word. I just think it's a gross word, so it's kind of fitting. And you know, simultaneously using the standard brush to make thicker veins that are kind of almost breaking out of the flesh of this thing. Well and truly into our secondary forms now. Is that the correct amount of radial for these things? Yes. So I am going to jump into radial just for these things, because I don't want this to run over like last week. Last week's stream we ran over by a full hour, hence why I'm only sculpting an egg today. Because I would like to get this entirely finished and ready for print. So I'll jump into symmetry for a little bit. Okay, and now I'm going to up the resolution. In fact, at this point, I'm going to duplicate my egg, and I'm going to take it through the Zremesher. Now I'm duplicating it so that I can project on our original detail. But at this point, there's enough detail on our actual model for the Zremesher to calculate our edge loops correctly. However, and that's really cool. I love that. However, I do have radial symmetry activated, and so it's going to Zremesh using symmetry. So if it's an asymmetrical model, make sure you deactivate symmetry before you run the Zremesh. I mean, I should have duplicated that. That was really cool. I don't know what you would use that for, but I liked the look of it. And so now we have a low res version, but more importantly, we have good edge loops that are gonna, well, better edge loops that are gonna conform to the shape. I'm gonna up the resolution a couple, and with our original egg and with our original egg visible, and our new egg selected, I'm going to come down to project and project all. And that will project the old detail onto our new subdivided good geometry egg. Then I can delete out the original. And now, if we up the subdivision levels on this thing, we're going to be able to really get in there and create, really get in there with some details. Let me get a nice and detailed version. So yeah, there's a lot of, let's up the resolution a lot. Ooh, what I would like to do actually is create some vertical veins from these things, because it would be easy to forget about the detail on the back side of these flaps. And we can just use this high Z intensity to really make some nice additions, or accentuate what is already there, what we've added. So this could be a nice Geiger feature if we like dig in on these parts. This could be a Geiger-esque for sure. Put in the symmetry. If you push in with the standard brush and then bring out, if you bring out and then you push in with the standard brush, you'll get a really nice kind of accentuated crease where it's almost like you're pushing under and in. Which for creases or scars or things like that is a really good, nice technique. And then you can use the damn standard brush to bring that out a little bit further. So I'm just using the damn standard around the edge of these pods. Separate them a little bit more from the actual egg. Just making sure that no particular element has gone forgotten about, or no area looks less detailed than anywhere else. And essentially I'm still just scribbling onto the model, you know. Do the underside of all of these things. And this isn't even past 1 million yet. We can really push this out, and then we have underside details done. Now I'm just kind of quickly scribbling this in, but it kind of works for what we're doing here. Now, what I might do is damage this one up a little bit. Make it look like it's been attacked or scratched into by some kind of creature, or because I guess the whole thing is that these things exist in quite a hostile environment, so they're probably gonna get attacked. Well, there's probably something out there on the alien planet that lives off these things and probably wants to eat them. So, and these kind of asymmetrical details is what really sells it. It's what's really going to sell your sell any model. Organic model anyway. So, how are we doing for time? Half an hour left. That's cool. And I guess if I get carried away with this sculpt and we really start getting crazy with it, and I don't want to end it, more importantly, this can roll over into next week and we can finish it off properly then. And you find this with, I still do this with every sculpt, you know. I'll have a hairy few moments, you know, in it where I hate it, basically. No matter how much I go on to love it, you know, some of my favorite pieces I've hated, pretty much all of them. You know, I'll have this moment where I think, you know, I've lost it. There's no, I've got nothing there anymore. I'm done, you know. But I've come to realize that is just part of the process now. The self-doubt, you know, because at any one point, every single model looks like crap. At the very beginning, you know, you start with a blob of clay, so and sometimes it looks like crap until for like 70% of the whole process, and then it just comes together at the end, and you really get the spark, and you start feeling it, and then you can breathe a sigh of relief that you're not completely useless. And I went through a mini version of that with this egg. So, oh, still in symmetry, but who cares? This thing is a mess of veins. So, and I'm wondering what to do with these kind of sideways ribbed bits and what they are, you know, in the universe of this thing. We can maybe come in and start doing some vertical lines in this thing as well. Got a lot of horizontals going on, so be nice maybe to add some of that going on. And because of I did that with symmetry activated, but because all of these are different now, because I've sculpted on them in asymmetry, it's going to do different things to each one. But that's fine, because we are still in the messy stage, and it's actually a good thing that it does that. So I'll come back into our top bits here, and I'll start to accentuate these, stretch these out a little bit more. And these creases, I don't even know when or how they happened, but it's at some point during the stroke, the messy kind of sketchy stroke process that I've had, it's created these this pattern in the sides, which I love, and I really want to keep it. So I'll accentuate details like this, you know. It would be a shame to lose them when they've been organically created. Sometimes when you're just kind of thinking on the fly, or thinking out loud, so to speak, on the sculpture, you really do create these kind of happy accidents that I guess you got to train your eye to see them once they're there. See, like here, this part could be, if I just lower my intensity, could be veins that are coming in from the side here. You see, even just that makes that kind of area look organic and real, and like if we push these in, like I was saying earlier, use Alt and push them in, and you start to get something really, really nice. It's almost like some kind of tongue, some creature's tongue coming out. And speaking of that, in fact, let's carry on. See, I'm starting to get into this line now. I knew I would, even though it's essentially just an egg. We are hi Geordie. On his phone in the workshop. Nice. I can't see what time you sent that message, so sorry if I've ignored you for too long. How are you doing, Geordie? How's the casting going? So just seeing more and more of these happy accidents and accentuating them. And at the same time trying to, oh, that's a nice one. See if we can kind of make a weird like eye looking thing like in a tree. Oh, spun that round. So here we go. And you can see now how this is starting to stretch the geo a little bit, starting to stress the topology a little bit more. So we're ready for another subdivision level shortly. But I mean, we are good. We've got another 2 subdivision levels in us because we Zremeshed. You can see how the topology is being kind to us, and we're able to get that little bit extra detail out of it, or quite a lot of extra detail out of it, really. Let's be brave and up our standard brush sensitivity to 45. Go around the edges here again. Take it in from afar, see how it'll work. And we're still in just the secondary forms of this thing. So like the kind of the middle of the 3 forms. What do you have? You have large, secondary, tertiary. I can't remember the word for the large one. You'll see a million tutorials on form in Sculpting, and I always forget the words for it. But basically, large, medium, and small details. And we are just on the secondary forms. The tertiary forms will be our final details, which are going to make this thing look really real, which in fact we can probably move on to now, except we'll have to we've neglected somewhat the base, so we're gonna come in and get some details going on in the base. See if I can get more functional things going on with the base, more mechanical Geiger-esque tubes and whatnot. So see if I can give each one of these things a little bit of a metal tubing look. Oh yeah, more things like that. Dynamesh a bit higher resolution. So what were we with the egg? Maybe like, oh, need to go a bit higher. Maybe 200 on this. 248 will do. So we can accentuate the edges of these things. Push it out a little bit more. Lovely. Oh, I think the egg itself needs a couple more of these. Oh yeah. I don't know what it is about the holes that are making me a little bit, giving me the shivers a little bit. I think it's because you don't quite know what's inside them or might come out of them. I don't know, but they're definitely gross, so they're going in. Lots of those. See, I was hinting at one up here, but I didn't quite go for it. Just get it in there. Okay, I like it. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to going on in the background while you're doing your casting, Geordie. That's good. I hope my dulcet tones are relaxing enough for you. That's exactly how I listen to the Pixelogic guys' live streams. In a really geeky way. It's like really therapeutic. Helps me concentrate. Yeah, next up is these tertiary details that I was talking about. And so basically this is like the finer details that isn't, they're not gonna in any way disrupt your silhouette. That's coming down to like pores and veins and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna grab my my standard brush, and in the alpha menu I'm gonna select the kind of veiny alpha looking thing, and then in my strokes I'm going to go to spray, and then I'm going to up the subdivision level twice, and then I think I'm going to have to lower the Z intensity maybe to 10, and then off with symmetry, and then you can see as we gently spray over the model here, we're going to get some really cool looking stressed veins along the model. Now I want these growths to kind of have a different look to them, and the same with these kind of angled kind of portions. But you can see how our secondary detail that we've added in, these larger veins, are kind of brought to life when you drag these smaller veins over the top of them. It makes it kind of seem like these smaller veins are coming out of the secondary forms that we've created. And I mean, look how easy it is to create them. I mean, it's so easy to create immense detail in ZBrush. But it is also easy to go overboard with it, and not you've got to make sure that you're taking in the model as a whole as well, and not just getting really down into one nitty-gritty piece of detail and neglecting the rest, basically. I like how they kind of creep into these growths. I don't want them too far in, but I quite like it kind of links the two pieces together. The same with the base. I'm gonna have these veins kind of creep in and break up the surface of the base here as well. I mean, I'm kind of quite symmetrical with that base, which I don't like, but we're going to go with it. So I also don't like how so what I'm going to do with the tubes is I'm going to merge them all together, which I meant to do earlier, but I forgot. So there we go, and then we can turn on radial symmetry, and then whatever we do to one, we'll do to all of them. So I'm just going to move that part in. So I didn't like how it was sinking in. It wasn't kind of organically sinking into the model. Just turn my alpha off and go back to dots for the minute. Turn up my intensity, and just bury these into the base. Okay, still got a nice flat bottom to this thing, and I mean, I still want this to be, I think it's a little bit on the bulbous side, so I'm gonna lift it up slightly, only slightly. Okay, so now with our standard, we're going to select that. We're going to, I think we're going to use, oh, maybe the alpha 23, which is the kind of dots of different sizes, but they're kind of sharp. And this will, whoa. I mean, that was a happy accident, because that I meant to turn the Z intensity down there, but forgot. And just look at how vivid that detail is right there. So I'm definitely going to do that somewhere. It's a bit bold. I might not do it that strong, but definitely we can have. It's almost like I don't know, like insects have kind of burrowed into it or something, or you know, eroded it away somehow. And this is exactly the kind of detail that you could get carried away with. I mean, I love that so much that I would cover the whole thing in that if I could. But I think it's quite nice to have maybe underneath some of these guys, because I can imagine maybe smaller insects wanting to burrow in underneath these flaps or something. I don't know whether my imagination's going crazy or not. And then if we lower this quite considerably, the Z intensity, then if we just lightly spray onto the model here, you can see how we start to get maybe like a fleshy kind of fleshy organic material going on, which again is just lovely. And this one is very hard to go overboard with, really. I mean, you could cover the whole thing in this kind of subtle. However, these things, I do want them to be slightly smooth, like slick. I want to give them maybe a texture, but have them definitely be mostly slick. And I'm going to really bury into these corners here and build out. Intensity up, build out here. There we go. Okay. We are getting there now. I do want more of those really funky looking holes. Not to go crazy with them, but oh, definitely not with radial symmetry activated. Oh, that might be a bit much. And you can smooth out some of them so that not all of them are as intense. And then instead of pushing them in, you could always push some of them out, like so, and then smooth them down. You can always take it to an extreme and then smooth it down, but you've got to be careful that you're not smoothing down any of the other detail. Okay, looks like we're not quite going to make it all the way to the end with this one, but I'm fine with that. I'm having a lot of fun with this, and if I pick it up again next week, then I might take you through the whole process within the stream. I might take it all the way through to slicing it, and literally to the point of putting it onto the printer, and then record what I do with a completed print after that. Oh yeah, I like how that looks on these top bits. So I'm just lightly feathering now this sharp alpha, dotted alpha, to give it this porous look. And also at this point, it's really where you see the as an artist, where you see the sculpt actually being done. I mean, that's like an ever-growing and an ongoing battle to figure out when a piece of work is done. I still spend far too long generally on my sculpts. I haven't quite got it down to a military operation yet, like some of the big dogs, your Raphael Grossettis, etc. However, I can speed sculpt. I do love it. Five minutes left, so 5 minutes left. I'll just keep moving around the model, adding in some finer details. See, I am gonna really smooth these bits out. And then maybe create some. That's what I'll do with the final 5 minutes. I'll give these a little bit more character. Take off my alpha, just go back to a regular standard brush. I'm gonna give these kind of a like they're pushing themselves out of the main form of the egg. Maybe even so I'll quickly go around and do that, and then I'll inflate these bits around the edge and really bed them in and make them look, because at the moment you can see where we've dug in there, and you can see the where in actuality it'll probably be folded in and put two separate materials, but one pushing out of the other, so it'll be a lot more snug in there. So without going too crazy with these things, just a couple like stretch marks almost. Should do it. This one's already got that damage detail in it, so come around and do some of these. I've already got excuse me, some of these have already got quite nice details that I don't really want to wreck, so I'm just gonna accentuate details we like, add new details. Then I'll show you finally what I mean with this inflating the edges. Okay, so the inflate brush is really nice for when you need that effect of two different materials coming together and squeezing together. So if we come around here and now push around, maybe even with a larger, I will lower the subdivision levels to maybe 4 until we just are unable to see the proper detail here. That means that when we inflate it, we're in no danger of getting rid of our really dense detail. So you can see how it'll bubble up these areas, and they will overlap. They will become a little bit bubbly and perhaps even silly looking at this point, but this will give us a great starting point. And as long as we're not going to dynamesh from here on out. We're not going to dynamesh, but we're going to utilize our Zremeshed topology. So we'll be able to mask these out and edit them as we like. And I'll show you what I mean by that really quickly. So if we were to mask, because we have lovely edge loops, we can mask here and drag out onto this guy, and you can see how our mask itself is going into that little crater. And now we have the outer part of this masked and the inner part of it unmasked. So we could maybe go in here and push this out a little bit, or bring this out even further to create a big, lip or overhang or whatever. And then it won't actually affect the unmasked part. So I might go around all of them and kind of accentuate that overlapped part. But for now, I'm going to call that. It's very hard to stop once you've once you've got into a sculpt. It's very hard to stop. But I will I'll call that a day right there. I'll quick save it. It'd be too typical for it to crash now. And yeah, 1 minute over. Well, thanks for watching anyway. And yeah, like I said, next week I'll continue on with this. I'll add a few extra details, bits and bobs there at the beginning, but the main focus of next week will be to prepare the inside so it receives the pen, and get it all dynameshed and ready for printing. Please ask any questions you like in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer them. This will be going up on my my channel, so by all means ask whatever you like. Subscribe to the channel as well, and it'll help me make more of these. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.